Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Some stories about bridezillas. Let's go to the first one, about OP's friend who picked her co-workers she barely knew to be her bridesmaids instead of OP because OP is too pretty. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Myself and my friend have known each other for a long time. Whilst I will say we are quite different people, we have always been close and gotten along well, apart from the odd disagreement. She got picked on by a few girls at our school, and I defended her, and ended up taking a bad whooping by doing this. She used to crash at mine 2 nights a week through school, and we were pretty inseparable. We always kept in touch, and met up probably once a month as life got busier as we got older. We were pregnant with our kids at the same time, who are now 4 years old. The experience of going through it together brought us even closer. We were a month apart. We even had a joint baby shower. I have been married for 5 years, and my husband and her now husband are friends. Although not great pals, they get along fine. She was a bridesmaid at my wedding, along with my sister and my very best friend. We had no issues at all, and we regularly saw each other about once a week for our kids to play together. She got engaged last year, and the wedding was at the end of December. She told me she was having no bridesmaids, just her sister as maid of honor. I honestly thought nothing of it at all. Some people don't like to make a big fuss. Just went along to the wedding with my other friends and our husbands and was looking forward to it. As soon as we got in the church and she walked in, looking amazing, I saw 3 girls as her bridesmaids, and my stomach turned, and I wondered why. I obviously never said anything because it was her day. My friend made a comment to me of something like, "I can't believe she didn't ask you," and her husband says she just picked the ugliest friend she had. I didn't say this, or think it by the way. I would never say that about anyone. But when he said it, I did wonder. The girl she had, I later found out work with her. She's been in the job 8 months. It made me really sad, and I did ask her about it a few weeks later. And she said it was because I was too pretty to have as a bridesmaid. She wanted the focus to be on her, and she didn't want her husband or his friends to be looking at me. When I think back, I have noticed situations where she has kept me away from her husband, his friends, and told me things like she isn't dressing up or making an effort to go somewhere. And when I turn up, she's gone all out and I look like an idiot. I notice things now that slipped my mind before. Before her wedding, she also told me I don't need to stay for the night part, and not to worry if I can't stay for the meal either. I told her how this upset me, as I can't help how I look. I can't help the genes or DNA I inherited off my parents, and I'm sorry she felt that way. And had I done anything to make her feel this way? She said she didn't want to be the girl who gets pushed aside for her friend on her wedding day. I completely understand that, but it has hurt my feelings, and I thought our friendship meant more than that. I've spoken to her many times about how upsetting it is that people think I'm automatically going to be a certain snobby way for how I look and how I want to be taken seriously, etc. But she obviously doesn't see my point. I even spoke to her about not feeling valued in my work and people thinking I can't be smart enough or have the qualifications to do my job. She even told me she had the girls as bridesmaids because they're not attractive and wouldn't upstage her. I find that really cruel and shallow. I haven't spoken to her in a week, and I don't know what to say. I'm upset, and I understand people who are strangers judge you, but you don't expect it from a longtime friend. I'm not sure what to do. Does anybody have any advice? I don't want to lose a friend, and in some ways I understand. Just wish she had been honest with me instead of lying. Is she a friend? Is it a comfort to know that this woman is so afraid of people who have been there for her to overshadow her, that she picked strangers to be in her wedding? Also, who goes out looking for ugly strangers? Is it respecting your friendship when you are parked in the corner for the highlights in her life? OP is good enough to be her support on other days. But she delights in humiliating OP regularly by deliberately misinforming OP about dress codes. This has nothing to do with OP's genes, great or not. OP is her frenemy, the person to compete with, to hold as a standard to measure herself to. If it's not OP's appearance, there might be some other excuse to make OP the enemy, and every time she puts OP down, she feels good. The wedding was a big rush there. About 12 months ago, I seen an old friend at the store out of the blue. I'll call her M. Me and M were very good friends throughout high school and several years after, until we kind of stopped talking for a few years. Anyway, we began chatting for a short time, and she eventually gave me her number and said we should catch up sometime. I agreed, and that was that. We texted back and forth for a few days until she suggested we hang out. I agreed, and we ended up stopping by that evening. Somewhere in the conversation, she asked if I was single, and I said yes, and she said same. Cool. That night, we ended up having great S. The next day, we hung out again. Things got frisky again, and right before we did the deed, she asked me to ditch the protection because it hurt her or whatever. She told me she had an IUD and assured me she could not get pregnant. I stupidly agreed. I trusted her because she was a good friend of mine back then, and she doesn't seem like the type of person who would lie. Now this is where it kind of gets NSFW, but I'm putting it in context so it will make more sense in the end. Right before the end of the deed, I mentioned I was about to finish. She told me to finish inside so it doesn't get all over her. So me being a complete idiot, did. Long story short, for the next 2 weeks, give or take, M came to my house pretty much every night. And in those 2 weeks, I probably finished inside her 30 plus times. Then one day, she pretty much just went ghost. She would only text me once or twice a day and was being very short. She said something along the lines of she didn't want to catch feelings, then eventually she just completely went ghost. I kind of was like, whatever, and moved on. Fast forward to yesterday. I hadn't talked to her or seen her in about a year. And last night, I went on Facebook for the first time in probably 2 years to check the marketplace for vehicles. I was scrolling through my feed just seeing what my old friends were up to when I seen a picture of her holding up a baby. I was shocked and clicked on her profile, and sure enough, she's married and has been married to this guy for over 3 years now. All over her profile was pictures of her and her husband and her baby. At this point, I did some digging and came across a picture she posted in late October of last year of a positive pregnancy test and her husband kissing her stomach. That had the caption, "After over a year of trying, it finally happened. Me and husband's name are so excited for what the future holds," that she had announced on her Facebook. I decided to check my phone and see if I still had our messages to check the dates, but I had deleted them. So I came up with the idea to see if me and M had taken any pictures around the time we were having S. And sure enough, I found a Snapchat I had taken of us drinking, and it was dated September 28th of last year. Well, that's just fantastic. These dates are way too close for my comfort. To make matters worse, the kid looks pretty similar to me. Has my eye color and not the husband's. Same hair color, same nose. Doesn't even really look like him. I don't even know what to do at this point. I barely slept last night, and I feel terrible and incredibly stupid, even though I had no clue she was married at the time. I haven't told a soul about this besides posting on here. I'm not sure if I should reach out to the guy and tell him she cheated on him, let alone mention that the baby might not be his. I feel for the guy, because I've been cheated on before, and it sucks. To make matters even worse, I now have an amazing girlfriend that I have been with for 6 months now, and I don't want to ruin it with her. What should I do? Could this kid be mine? Should I tell him? Only inner feelings can answer this question to OP. He needs to ask himself first what he feels like doing. Will he be able to live peacefully knowing that it might be his child? If no, I would advise to talk to a lawyer and find out what his options and liabilities are legally before he blows up their lives with this story. Then, have that lawyer handle the contact and any DNA testing, starting with legal representation. So, my now fiancé and I got engaged last week. Yay! Almost immediately after, we spread the word of our engagement. The proverbial floodgates of wedding planning were opened. I have an anxiety disorder, and this is seriously upsetting me, and I don't know how to approach this problem, which leaves everyone moderately satisfied. Since I was young, I only wanted two things for my wedding. One, for it to take place during fall, my favorite season, so September through November. Two, I wanted it in a local area, near where we both live, a place that I've cherished my whole life. That's it. My parents made a deal with me forever ago in anticipation of my eventual wedding day and bequeathed me a decent amount of money to either allocate towards the wedding, a house, etc. They're absolutely behind me in when and where we want the wedding to be. So is my 28 male fiancé, M. Now here's the problem. His mom and her wife came up for dinner, another state away, for a belated Thanksgiving. She was already critical about the ring he got me and how the proposal went down, but he shut her down. Good. And yet, we discussed possible dates and venues. I made it clear at least when I wanted it. This was an immediate no-no. His cousin is getting married on November 19th, 2019. I said, cool, let's have ours in September. Nope, it's too close. It will destroy her if we have it anywhere in the year 2019. Even January 2020 is off limits. This was also done at a dinner where his mom met my parents for the first time. My parents didn't want to be rude and counter her argument, so they didn't say anything. But they were not in agreement. Their rationale is this: please let me know if I'm missing something and being heartless. This cousin is 30 days younger than M. They lived in the same city. I guess their big Italian family had to split time for all the birthdays, holidays, events between them, and she essentially lived in his shadow. This is her one moment in her life that won't be potentially upstaged by M's. If I wanted to get married the same week or month, I'd understand. But 2 months out? I come from a small family. Most of my guests will be family friends and friends overall. 50 plus from his guest list is just family. His mom cried and told him if they have it on the same year, they'll probably disown him or not show to ours. Which I really don't care. Means I can actually invite some guests that aren't blood related, but matter immensely to me. My parents are now upset that I don't have a choice. They don't want it in the spring 2020 because we have snow, harder for travel like my brother who's away at law school. Summer is already littered with our other friends' days. And I can't wait till fall 2020 because it's unsustainable for me to worry about all this for nearly 2 years with my anxiety. I'll break. My mom is really pissed. My dad tried to talk to M today in a very logical and pragmatic way, saying we're funding this wedding and it's mostly going to be M's guests due to his huge family. Least they can do is compromise and allow me to pick the date. He wouldn't budge. I don't want to set a negative, resentful tone for this wedding process. It's only just begun, and I'm ecstatic overall about marrying him. At this point, I just want a destination wedding if we can afford it, and barely invite anyone. Nobody owns the year of their wedding. The date, once it's set, yes. The week of, absolutely. There's too much stuff going on the week of a wedding. But an entire year? Just no. OP's fiancé's family are adults. They can get the hell over themselves. And hey, if fewer people show up, that's fewer people OP has to buy dinner for at $100 or more per plate. It's win-win. I'm from the Midwest and moved to the West Coast for school and stayed. Because of work, grad school, I only get to see my family twice a year. But I've always had an incredible relationship with them. This summer, my brother married a girl he'd been dating for a while. I met her a few times and we got along fine. She asked me to be a bridesmaid, which of course I accepted. She wanted to go to Chicago for her bachelorette party. I politely declined because I couldn't afford the trip. I was already paying for my dress and the trip to the actual wedding. Of course, this happened with every other bridesmaid's get-together and bridal shower. I didn't know this at the moment, but she took it personally and told my brother I was making it seem like I was just too important for this role. When the week of the wedding came, I flew home and I was really excited to see all of my family. My parents shifted their attention to me because I hadn't seen them since Christmas, 8+ months. For the first time in months, a family conversation had not been entirely about the wedding. I'm used to being pampered whenever I'm home. My mom loves taking care of me with delicious food, and I enjoy being around my parents a lot. In hindsight, I'm sure this triggered a lot of her eventual resentment. She was really stressed with the wedding planning and made a couple of bitchy remarks about how the other bridesmaids had been helping her out so much. I hadn't gotten involved in the process because I lived 2,000 miles away. She made sure I knew how much fun her bachelorette party had been and how everyone had a great time without me. Cool. Too bad I missed it, but I had no choice. On the day of the wedding, my mom and I got our hair and makeup done professionally. During the reception, my extended family was really happy to see me, and they all asked how I'd been doing. I really didn't think it was such a big deal. I knew half of the people at the wedding, and they all asked me about my life. When we were taking the pictures, my mom requested one of just me and my brother, which bothered the bride. I was dancing and having a good time when a cousin, who was really close friends with my brother, told me that the bride had said I just loved hogging attention. I was obviously shocked, but didn't really let it bother me. It was after my brother came home from his honeymoon that I found out his new wife said I stole her thunder on her big day. My brother emailed me and said I should call to apologize to her. When I asked what exactly I had done wrong, he replied with a list of the most insane accusations in the world. She said that since the moment I got home, I wanted everyone's attention, and I would only talk about myself. She said I had gotten my hair and makeup done professionally, just to look better than her. She said I was an attention W and could not stand being upstaged. All of the other bridesmaids agreed that I always had a bad attitude, and I was being selfish. She accused me of ruining her day, and essentially not kowtowing to her like everyone else. I immediately called my mom, furious that my brother had actually believed this crap. She downplayed it and said that brides tend to be too sensitive when it comes to that, and she would get over it soon. I emailed my brother and just told him that none of what she said was true. I told him that I would call her if he talked to her first and let her know that I didn't do anything on purpose. A few days went by, and then I got a horrible text message from her saying that I was trying to pit her against my brother. I waited a few hours to reply, and I simply told her this had all been a misunderstanding and that we should talk calmly about it. I never heard back. My parents and I have been communicating normally since, with rarely any mention of the incident. When I do mention it, my mom is the first one to say everything's good now. However, my brother has been standoffish and downright rude since. We used to have a great relationship. I know it's because of his wife, but I cannot find a way to confront him about it, especially being so far away. I'm going home for Christmas, and I want all of this to go away. I hate family drama, and we are going to have to coexist for the rest of our lives.